Christmas used to begin long before sunrise. My husband Thomas would sneak downstairs while I pretended to be asleep, just so he could plug in the tree lights before I came into the living room. Every year he insisted the first thing I should see on Christmas morning was the glow of those tiny white bulbs reflecting off the ornaments we'd collected over 4 decades. Even after he passed away 8 years ago, I kept the tradition alive. That Christmas morning, I woke before dawn, wrapped myself in my old wool cardigan, and quietly made my way downstairs. Outside, fresh snow blanketed our little neighborhood in Columbus, turning every rooftop into a postcard. Inside, the tree shimmered softly beside the fireplace, just as Thomas would have wanted. I whispered, "Merry Christmas," to the empty room. It had become my way of speaking to him. The house was silent except for the gentle hum of the furnace and the ticking grandfather clock in the hallway. Some people might have called it loneliness. I called it memory. By 7 o'clock, cinnamon rolls were baking, coffee filled the kitchen with its familiar aroma, and the dining table looked exactly as it had every Christmas since Daniel was a little boy. The red tablecloth had faded over the years, but I couldn't bring myself to replace it. There was a tiny stain near one corner from the year Daniel spilled hot chocolate when he was 6. Thomas always laughed about it, saying every family needed a few permanent reminders that life wasn't meant to stay perfect. At exactly 8:30, I heard tires crunching across the snow. My heart lifted. Daniel had always been punctual. I opened the front door before they even reached the porch. "There they are," I called. Daniel hugged me first. He smelled of expensive cologne, the kind I knew cost far more than I would ever spend on myself. "Merry Christmas, Mom." "Merry Christmas, sweetheart." Emily followed with a carefully wrapped gift and a practiced smile. "You look wonderful, Margaret." "So do you, dear." Then Sophie rushed past both of them and threw her arms around me so tightly that I nearly lost my balance. "I missed you, Grandma. I missed you more." Unlike the adults, Sophie's hugs never felt rehearsed. Inside, laughter quickly filled the house. Wrapping paper piled beneath the tree while Christmas music drifted softly through the speakers. For a little while, everything felt normal. Maybe even perfect. Daniel complimented the decorations. Emily admired the dining room. Sophie helped me carry breakfast to the table without being asked. Yet every now and then, I caught Daniel glancing toward the hallway where my home office sat. At first, I thought nothing of it. Then I noticed Emily doing the same. The feeling was small, barely more than a whisper. Still, it lingered. As we ate breakfast, Daniel brought up memories from childhood. "Remember when Dad dressed up as Santa because I stopped believing?" I laughed. "He forgot to change his boots." Sophie grinned. "What happened?" "You looked at his work boots," I said, smiling. "Then you announced to the entire neighborhood that Santa worked at the hardware store." Everyone laughed. Even Daniel. For a moment, I saw my little boy again. The one who used to build snow forts in the backyard and cry whenever he found an injured bird. I wanted to believe that boy was still somewhere inside the man sitting across from me. After breakfast, Sophie helped clear the dishes while Daniel wandered into the living room. Through the kitchen doorway, I saw him speaking quietly with Emily. Their voices were too low to hear, but Emily nodded once, then looked toward me. When our eyes met, she smiled too quickly. Something tightened in my chest. It wasn't fear. Not yet. Just the uneasy feeling that a storm had arrived before anyone noticed the clouds. About 20 minutes later, Daniel returned carrying a large manila envelope. He set it gently beside my coffee cup. His smile was calm. Almost rehearsed. "Mom," he said softly, "before we open the rest of the presents, there's one little thing I'd like to take care of." I looked at the envelope, then back at my son. "What kind of thing?" "Oh, nothing stressful," he replied with a chuckle. "Just some paperwork. Richard probably should have talked to you about this years ago." The mention of my attorney surprised me. I frowned. Richard doesn't know about this. Daniel's smile faltered for only a fraction of a second. Then he recovered. Well, I just mean it's something lawyers usually recommend. Emily leaned forward. It's simply estate planning, Margaret. Everyone's doing it now. Estate planning. The word sounded reasonable. Responsible, even. Daniel slid the envelope closer to me and placed a pen gently on top. All you have to do is sign. I rested my fingers on the papers but didn't open them immediately. For reasons I couldn't explain. My hands suddenly felt cold. Margaret's fingers rested on the envelope while the room fell strangely quiet. The Christmas music still played in the background, but somehow it sounded farther away than before. I looked at Daniel. Why today? He smiled again, though this time it didn't reach his eyes. I just thought since we're all together. I slowly opened the envelope. The first page looked ordinary enough. Legal language. Property descriptions. Signature lines. The kind of paperwork most people never really read. But Thomas had taught me something years ago. Never sign anything until you understand every word. He used to repeat that whenever we refinanced the house or bought a car. His voice echoed in my mind as I turned the pages. Then I found it. One sentence. One simple sentence hidden in the middle of an otherwise ordinary paragraph. Ownership of the property shall transfer immediately upon execution of this agreement. Immediately. Not after I passed away. Not through my will. Immediately. I read it again. Then a third time. My heartbeat grew louder than the Christmas music. I slowly looked up. Daniel. He shifted in his chair. Yes. This says the house becomes yours today. He laughed nervously. Well, technically, yes. My stomach dropped. I thought you said this was estate planning. It is. No. I pushed the papers toward him. It isn't. Emily leaned forward before Daniel could answer. Margaret, you're misunderstanding it. I taught 5th grade for 38 years, I replied quietly. Reading carefully was part of my job. Nobody spoke. Even Sophie stopped moving. Daniel sighed. Mom, look. He rubbed his forehead. The market is changing. What does that have to do with my house? I've had a few setbacks. A few? Emily crossed her arms. His investment partners backed out. Daniel shot her an irritated look. She immediately fell silent. I suddenly understood. This wasn't about planning. It wasn't about protecting me. It was about protecting them. You need collateral. Daniel looked away. It's temporary. Temporary? You'll still live here. So I'd be living in your house. Our house. No, I said. My house. The silence felt heavy enough to break. Daniel leaned closer. Mom, we're family. I know. So why does a piece of paper matter? I looked around the living room. The fireplace Thomas built with his own hands. The staircase where Daniel learned to walk. The window where we watched our first grandchild wave from the driveway. Every wall held a memory. Every room carried a piece of our lives. This isn't paper, I whispered. It's 42 years. Daniel's voice hardened. You can't take it with you. The word struck harder than I expected. Not because they were cruel. Because they sounded rehearsed. As if someone had said them many times before. I looked at Emily. She avoided my eyes. Then I looked at Sophie. Tears filled her face before she spoke. Dad. Her voice trembled. Did you really ask Grandma to give you her house for Christmas? Daniel stood abruptly. You don't understand adult finances. No, Sophie replied. I understand Christmas. The room became painfully quiet. She walked around the table and wrapped her arms around me. I hadn't realized I was shaking until she held me. Daniel sighed loudly. This is getting emotional. I looked at him. It became emotional the moment you wrapped greed in Christmas paper. Without another word, I picked up the documents. Tore them neatly in half. Then again. And again. Tiny pieces drifted onto the dining room table like snow. Emily gasped. Daniel's face turned bright red. You've got to be kidding me. No. I was trying to help everyone. You were trying to help yourself. He slammed his hand against the table. Fine. If that's how you want it. He grabbed his coat. Emily hurried after him. Neither of them said Merry Christmas. Neither of them hugged me goodbye. The front door closed so hard the ornaments on the tree trembled. Only Sophie remained. She looked toward the door. Then back at me. I'm staying. You don't have to. I know. She smiled through tears. I want to. We spent the rest of Christmas together. We baked cookies. Watched old movies. Talked about Grandpa Thomas. For the first time all day. The house felt warm again. 3 days later my phone rang. Richard Lawson. My office. This afternoon. His voice carried unusual urgency. When I arrived, he closed the door. I've been trying to reach Daniel for weeks. I frowned. What happened? He requested copies of your property records. He said you recommended this paperwork. I absolutely did not. Richard removed another folder from his desk. I hired a forensic document examiner. My heart skipped. The paperwork you were given wasn't prepared by my office. What? It appears someone copied sections from legitimate legal forms and added entirely different ownership clauses. I stared at him. So. It was designed to transfer your home immediately. Exactly as I feared. Richard sighed. Margaret, if you had signed. I would have lost everything. He nodded. Legally. The drive home felt surreal. The betrayal hurt. But what hurt more was realizing how close I had come. One signature. One distracted moment. That was all it would have taken. A week later, Daniel appeared at my front door. Alone. No expensive coat. No confident smile. Just exhaustion. I messed up. I waited. I lost almost everything. I know. My business. I know. I thought selling the house later would have fixed everything. It wasn't yours to sell. He lowered his head. I forgot that. No. You convinced yourself. His eyes filled with tears. I became someone Dad would have hated. I thought about Thomas. He believed people should always have the chance to tell the truth after telling lies. Not because forgiveness was guaranteed. But because honesty had to begin somewhere. I can't pretend this didn't happen. I know. I don't trust you. I know. I love you. That made him cry harder. But loving you doesn't mean handing you the keys to my life. For several seconds neither of us spoke. Then he whispered something I had waited weeks to hear. I'm sorry. Not for getting caught. Not for failing. Sorry. At last. The months that followed were slow. Healing usually is. Daniel started attending financial counseling. He sold his luxury SUV. He took a regular job with another real estate company instead of chasing risky investments. Emily apologized too. Though hers came much later. Trust returned one careful step at a time. Not because time erased what happened. Because consistent actions slowly replaced painful memories. As for me, I updated my will with Richard. The house would remain mine for as long as I lived. After that, it would be divided fairly, with a portion set aside for a scholarship honoring Thomas, helping future teachers begin the careers we had both cherished. When I told Sophie, she smiled. Grandpa would have loved that. I think so too. The next Christmas looked very different. No legal papers. No hidden agendas. No rehearsed smiles. Just homemade cookies, old ornaments, and people finally learning that love cannot be transferred with a signature. Every Christmas morning now, I still wake before sunrise. I still plug in the tree. I still whisper into the quiet house. Merry Christmas, Thomas. But now I add one more sentence. You were right. Always read the fine print. Because sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is having the courage to say no.